Technology, innovation, and knowledge management are very significant in today's context. And in today's program, we shall have the opportunity to learn from our eminent speaker as we focus the discussion around the key aspects of health insurance. And the experts shall share their thoughts on the critical issues of the sectors in the light of current pandemic, bridging the gap of the demand and supply, the changes technology has brought in and the importance of data for forecast new products and services, and of course, the various operational challenges which the industry is facing. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are joined in by Srimati Tejinder Kaur, CMD National Insurance, Mr. Krishnan Ramchandran, Managing Director and CEO Max Bupa Health Insurance Company Limited, Mr. Ravi Vishwanathan, President, Accident and Health HDFC, Ergo General Insurance. Mr. Sanjeev Mantri, he's ED, ICICI Lombard General Insurance Company Limited, and the eminent dignitaries shall be sharing the perspectives of the insurance provider. We shall also take the views of the hospital because they are important stakeholders, and I welcome Mr. Udyan Lahiri, Joint Managing Director, Medica Hospitals, and of course, we have special guest with us, Mr. Suresh Mathur, ED IRDA, to share his thoughts from the regulatory perspective. My colleague Ranjita shall be moderating the panel today. We have a lot to cover, and I wouldn't really like to wait further on this. And I take this opportunity and request Chairman Insurance Council East, Mr. Navneet Doda, for his address and to welcome eminent guest on behalf of the Insurance Council, and then request Ranjita to take it forward. Over to you, Navneet, sir. I request Navneet ji to kindly unmute himself.
Good afternoon, all. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Okay. Respected Madam Tejinder Kaur, CMD, National Insurance Company Limited, Mr. Suresh Mathur, Executive Director, IRDAI, Mr. Steve Mann, Executive Director, ICICI Lombard, Mr. Krishnan Ramachandran, MD and CEO, Max Bupa Health Insurance, Mr. Ravi Vishwanath, President, Accident and Health Vertical of HDFC Ergo, and the eminent guests. I, on behalf of ASSOCHAM Insurance Council, take this opportunity to welcome you all for today's webinar on changing dynamics of health insurance. You see, for over the past few decades, the health insurance vertical has taken off in a big way. The first standardized insurance mediclaim policy was issued in 1986 by GIC, and after that, it has been a dynamic story, and it has been changing with times, changing with the aspirations of the policyholders. And in 2000, with the entry of the private sector, it gave a major fill-up to this health insurance segment. So these private sector brought in major changes in the policies. New products were there like family floater, top-up plans, hospitalization, cashless, various add-ons were there, and heightened service parameters were also introduced. So with this background, and with government chipping in the last 4 years with the new government schemes, so it has given the impetus to health insurance in India. All the poor people or low-income groups have been covered by many schemes of the state government, of the central government, which are basically in the form of Pradhan Mantri, Ayushman Bharat, PMSBYs, and other schemes. So, and the state government has also chipped in with their own health insurance schemes. So during the past decades, from 2010 to 2020, the health segment has grown at a almost CAGR of around 18 to 19%, which has been a very good growth rate over this period of 10 years. And now it is basically contributing almost 1/3 of the total GDPI of the insurance GI sector. So it is now around about 50. Hello. It is now around about 1/3 of it. It is around 58,000 crore. The total premium income from this sector, this segment, among the total GDPI of the insurance sector, GI sector. So during past 1 year, basically we have seen a sea change due to COVID-19. In last year, March, when it started in the first phase, now we call it a first phase. So there were complete lockdowns, things were in place, people were not coming out. Then after some time, people know it started ebbing down in August, September, October, people started coming out. It was thought that now this pandemic is a bit under control and we were going ahead normally. But in April this year again, we were confronted with the second wave for which we were not prepared. Neither the people nor the government infrastructure nor the insurance companies. So there was a tremendous pressure on all of us to perform and to provide the policyholders the necessary benefits, like for insurance companies, cashless settlements and everything. And in this regard, the regulator also chipped in. So they said the cashless claims have to be settled within 60 minutes, for which we think we came up to their expectations and helped the policyholders in this regard. So this pandemic has basically changed the way people think now. So earlier wealth was important, now health is more important than wealth. So things have changed. So we expect that going forward, health would be the major impetus in our general insurance segments. So basically in health insurance, we have 3 to 4 segments we segmented, like retail, investor, retail health groups, retail policyholders, because I'm from investment background, so sometimes I say those things. So retail health is there, then group health is there, OMPs are there, overseas mediclaim policies, and government schemes are there. So these are the basic 4 segments where the total health portfolio of the companies is fragmented. So going forward, basically what I feel is that there is a need to introduce more products for health as per the requirement of the policyholders. And then technology will play a very significant role in basically seamless, providing seamless service to the policyholders. So with these things, we have to be prepared now for a third wave. What the statistician says and whatever the world over the talks are, that the third wave may be there, but nobody is sure about it. So we have to be prepared. And then going forward, I would request all our panelists, madam, and all the experts to throw more light on this health segment, health insurance segment, and the changes which may be required going forward. So with this, I thank you all, and I you all to have a healthy life and stay safe. God bless us all. Thank you. Madam, please.
Thank you so much, Navneet sir. That was it was great to hear from you. And now we would like to just take forward this webinar, and we are all waiting to hear from the August presents today who are there. So we would like to touch on the following important points, like analyzing the impact and critical issues in the light of the current state of pandemic, importance of data for the forecast, bridging the gap of demand and supply across the demographies, partnership of insurance, TPAs, marketing partner, healthcare providers, and pharmaceutical players. And then introduction of COVID-specific health plan, which is very important at this moment. We want to hear more about this thing. Then evolution of the healthcare, or a market full of opportunities, or is it a part of economic slowdown? So these are all some of the key points that we would like to touch upon during this webinar. And there would be more, like we would also welcome our delegates who are there today, and we would ask them to please provide their questions in the chat box so that we can just take up with the panelists. So now we would like to welcome Mr. Ramesh Kumar Damani, the Vice Chairman, ASSOCHAM Insurance Sub-Council East. So over to you.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Very good afternoon, sir. It's changing dynamics on health insurance. Health insurance was already there, and the COVID-19 has really changed the entire dynamics of the health insurance. And under the leadership of our young dynamic leader, Mr. Ravi Agrawal, he has taken the wonderful subject on health insurance, which is a need of our. I really welcome all of you, the participants and the guest speaker and honorable our chairman and executives of the all insurance company. I welcome and see that what they can give better and new things to the market. You see, I am the front runner and I'm selling insurance to the social mass people and individual health insurance also. The only thing is that people want that the product should be very plain and vanilla product. When they go for the settlement of the claim, they see that a lot of claims are being deducted on some grounds. So there should be very plain vanilla policy. Whatever expenses are to be paid by the insurance, reimbursed by the insurance company. But in COVID time, what I have seen also, the exorbitant rates by the hospital have really burned the finger of the insurance company also. People are not getting admission in the hospital, and whatever the charges are hospital, they have changed the rates. Ordinary room rent, I have seen the 6 person occupying a room, the room rent is 20,000 per bed. So exorbitant charges by the hospital, unbearable expenses by the family. So now, whatever may be, the entire COVID to the world has changed the health scenario. It has become more important. What I say, everybody, that 100 rupees expenses, whatever you have done, it is a tax paid money. ₹150 he has to earn to pay 100 rupees. That means 30% tax. So any 100 rupees he has to earn ₹150. So whatever the bill may be, I take it as a 150%. It's not about 100 rupees we have paid. So Mediclaim really prevents us from all this financial instability in the family. Lot of families has been ruined because the insurance is not there. Somebody has to sell the ornaments, somebody has to sell the house, somebody has to mortgage the house. This scenario has come because life is first. So this is the right time that we have discussed this subject. And as per GIC Council, what I have seen, that as on the 15th May, all insurance companies has paid practically 50% of the whole year claim as on date, if I am not wrong. And the average claim size is around 1,50,000. And it has gone up to the, say, 45 lakh rupees. I have settled one claim in the COVID. So exorbitant. And I don't sell policy below 25 lakhs and 50 lakh. That at least to keep a financial protection. मैं तो यहाँ तक कहता हूँ कि यदि इंश्योरेंस प्रीमियम का पैसा नहीं है, आप एक टाइम खाना बंद कर दो, आप मरोगे नहीं, पर प्रीमियम दो, आप फाइनेंशियली सेव हो जाओगे. So like that, I have to educate the customer. Insurance is still not penetrated nicely in the market. I request the IRDA Executive Director, Honorable Mr. Suresh Mathur, why don't he introduce the health insurance and this subject in the school education so that the people are becoming aware of the benefits of the medical health insurance and accidental insurance. This is my humble submission to the present members. Why don't they put the suggestion through GIC Council or through IRDA to put a insurance as a subject in class 8, 9, 10, 11. Because whatever history, geography, it can be well seen in Google's. So I don't feel is much of importance than the insurance coming up and creating the financial instability in the market, in the family, if they are uninsured. Since the entire board and members are present, this is my humble submission that people should, you should approach the HR ministry in central to introduce insurance as a subject in their school regular education. And with all this thing, I must thank all of you to have the nice suggestion to us so that the things are moved very nicely in the market, come with the vanilla product and create more awareness about the health insurance. पैसा कमाना आसान हो गया, पैसा संभाल के रखना कठिन हो गया, and the Mediclaim is draining out the entire wealth and health. So sir, I welcome all of you, and now our Mr. Sanjeev Mantri, the largest insurance company, managing director, standalone insurance company Max Bhupa, represented by Mr. Krishna Ramchandran, Mr. Ravi Vishwanath, looking after SDFC Helgo Health Insurance President, and Mr. Uday Lahiri, MD of the Medica Specialty. So please keep your valuable suggestions. Mr. Mathur is here. I request you to put my message to the ministry so that the education department should take care of the introduction of the insurance subject in the school subject. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Damani. And you rightly said about the insurance as a subject to be incorporated in the school curriculum. So we hope this would be thought of very soon. So now I would like to call upon Mr. Sanjeev Mantri, Executive Director, ICICI Lombard General Insurance Company Limited. Before I hand over to Mr. Mantri, I would like to take all of you through his very short profile. Um, Mr. Sanjeev Mantri is Executive Director at ICICI Lombard General Insurance Company Limited, the largest private sector general insurance company in India. He spearheads the retail division of ICICI Lombard and is responsible for the distribution of products across agency, direct and alternative channels. He's also in the charge of strategy, products, analytics, pricing, marketing, and corporate communication verticals at ICICI Lombard. In the past, Mr. Mantri has held key leadership positions with BNP Paribas and ICICI Bank over a career spanning more than 20 years. In terms of qualification, Mr. Mantri is a cost and chartered accountant. So it was great to hear from you, Mr. Mantri. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Ranjita. Good afternoon. It's indeed a pleasure to be part of this panel discussion, and it's one of the most relevant thing in today's time in terms of changing dynamics of health insurance. I'll also like to, acknowledge my other panelists, Mr. Ravi, Mr. Navneet, Mr. Ramesh Kumar Damani, the regulator, Mr. Mathur, Mr. Udyan Lahiri, Mr. Vishwanath, and Mr. Krishnan Ramchandran. It's a pleasure. Clearly, when we look at the scenario in the current times, what is one thing which I find common is it's not that only the developing world has got impacted, it's the developed world also which got equally impacted. So any resources for that matter, I would like to put it across, is not capable of managing such extreme, traffic. It's especially in the medical fraternity where we have always probably operated on a least cost model. We have tried to keep things just in time. We've been all got overwhelmed, and it's been a common factor across the world where everyone who had had this surge could not recuperate. For coming closer to the country, I believe we have been no different, and we were far more overstretched because we ourselves know that any parameter that we pick up by from a doctor available to the population, and also for that matter hospital beds available, we do end up falling short. And talking about insurance penetration in particular, again the situation continues to stay grim with the penetration overall at 35% at a country level, including all schemes. But when it comes to retail penetration, it goes down to nothing less than just about 3 to 4%. And if you see the dynamics of the macro data that is coming out at this point of time, it's very evident that the next 5 years, which is 2020 to 2024, we will see almost 40% surge on the retail expenses of the customer on the hospitalization part or the medical expenses. This is what the data is. Asia is the one as a region, and India is one of them, will lead this particular charge. Clearly, there is a challenge. This is in comparison to the last 5 years, which is 2015 to 2019, where the expenses got incurred. Also, what is also evident is almost 75% of the Indians are very clearly looking for solutions on the health side. So there's a clear demand which is there, and they're more than happy connecting with any of the providers. Now, that need not be only insurance companies. They can be multiple players through fintech, through insurtech, whichever way it comes out, they're willing to connect. So there's a clear, obvious demand that exists. What is lacking is the infrastructure gap. If we talk about infrastructure, a lot of innovation has happened, and obviously they are saying that necessity is the mother of all inventions. We ourselves have in Eastern Kolkata created a 58-bed, fully equipped hospital in just 12 days with Neotia Group. If this is possible, frankly speaking, we also never knew this was possible prior to pandemic. But as the cases surged, as the need came in, the innovation was possible. But such kind of a development, my friends and colleagues, will not happen on a perpetuated basis. We need a solution which is far more all-encompassing. In which the intervention of digitization and technology will play a significant role. We ourselves have seen the downloads of the app of I'll Take Care for ICICI Lombard itself has gone almost 10x of what they used to be. The idea is to provide a single secular line to everyone in terms of managing the healthcare requirements of the customer. Now, for that to happen, it requires humongous collaboration across entities, be it regulator, be it the hospital, be the other services provider, be it doctors, because it is a lot of fight has been done in isolation. Insurers will have their grievances, hospitals will certainly have their end of grievances, regulator will keep putting rules, but the embedment of the whole thing in terms of conjuring it all together is becoming a puzzle which is hard to solve. And I believe technology can play a role. We ourselves have seen that in today's times, telemedicine, which otherwise was not picking up in a big time, has gone up almost 100x to volume what it used to be. And this particular thing will continue to come in times to come. I also believe that some of the few things which the regulator did was phenomenal. One of the classic case, one of the few things which comes when people buy health insurance, and Damani kind of spoke about it, affordability, consistency, understanding the product. Arogya Sanjini was a master stroke in terms of providing consistent product to everybody who picks up from 1 lakh to 5 lakh. I believe that that particular launch was one of the landmark things for us as an industry, because the consumer was always confused what is he buying into. Then post that, and when the pandemic kept on building up, we had Corona Kavach, we had Corona Raksha, or multiple products came in. Not only that, disease specific for Corona, we had products available for short tenure to increase affordability, and these products have seen tremendous pickups in the market. If one of the suggestions that I want to leave with, where I believe it can make a big difference and lead to a massive influx of people picking up health insurance, because the gap is obvious. I spoke about one of the how significantly India's population remains uncovered on account of insurance. Even if you look at the current data, that gap is huge. Is probably we should see and explore possibility of an health exchange. That is one big thought that I want to put on the table. This health exchange should be managed and monitored by a non-profit organization, purely a platform. Something to this extent also has got created in America around 2010 and has done extremely well by enrolling almost 12 million people, and the numbers are growing there. And the first product that can be there on the exchange, in my thinking, is the Arogya Sanjeevani, which is consistent. Risk pricing can vary from individual to individual. We may have an ICICI Lombard pricing a particular risk in particular category in a particular manner. So can the other insurance company. But the consistency and the ability to reach out to the masses and tell them to pick it up from an authority which is unbiased. And this exchange can not only become a platform to sell policies or to make customers buy this, but also can become a conduit where they can really create tremendous consistency in terms of services, in terms of grievances and all of those aspects, which otherwise keep falling short in the current circumstances. And there's always a gap. I do believe that this particular step in a country like India, where the underinsurance continues to be a significant challenge, lack of understanding and consistency can be a challenge, can play a big role. So with this, I like to end my submission, and I wish you all the best of health and best of services at all time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sanjeev sir. And you've rightly spoken about reaching out to the masses, and which is now the very important for all of us at the moment. So we can but although India is like 1.4 billion Indian population, and reaching out to every level of masses is actually is a challenge where we need to think about further how to outreach. So taking forward, I'll just we'll just talk about more about it. So I would now request Mr. Krishnan Ramachandran, Managing Director and CEO, Max Bupa Health Insurance Company Limited. So before I call upon Mr. Krishnan Ramachandran, I would like to just read out a small bio of Mr. Krishnan. Krishnan Ramachandran is the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Max Bupa Health Insurance Company Limited. He's an industry veteran and a well-recognized name in the health insurance industry, and last served as the CEO of Apollo Munich Health Insurance. Mr. Krishnan brings with him over 23 years of extensive experience across health insurance, healthcare, and life science industries. He is known for his focus on the core institution building with varied experience in transforming health insurance operations, driving a high growth distribution strategy, and leveraging technology for enabling business growth. His diverse experience across domestic and international markets, coupled with his track record of delivering consistent and profitable growth, is a guiding force for Max People. Krishnan ji is an engineer and an MBA from IIT Madras and IIM Kolkata. So we would like to hear from you now, Mr. Krishnan Ramchandran.
Thank you, Ranjita. Thank you for the opportunity. Very warm greetings to Mr. Navneet Damani ji, Mr. Mathur, Madam Tejinder, Sanjeev and Ravi. Pleasure to be here and hello to the audience. Firstly, I'd like to continue what Mr. Damani and Sanjeev mentioned, that the reality is that in these challenging times, health insurance, we have proven, is an industry that matters and is an industry that makes a difference. I think the other fact, Mr. Damani, I'd like to mention is, so far, the health insurance industry has paid out 15,000 crores worth of claims. And unlike in most parts of the world, and I can say this because, one of our joint venture companies, Bupa, operates in many parts of Europe and Southeast Asia and Australia, they do not cover COVID. So COVID is the responsibility of the state. And for most part, private health insurance does not take first loss on COVID. And I think it is a great testimony to the resilience and the public service orientation of insurance companies in India, that not only have we stepped forward in very troubling times, but also we have made good our promise to policyholders in a very, very substantial and meaningful way. And I think it is important to emphasize this, especially in the light of some of the somewhat adverse publicity that the industry has received. But the reality is that 95 people who claim out of every 100 have their claims settled, and the health insurance industry has prevented financial stress in a very, very large number of Indian families. And to Mr. Damani's point, if more of them had it, I'm sure that the news that we read about financial stress and people falling into poverty could have been avoided. Specifically, from the topics that Ranjita mentioned, I want to touch upon two. One is this whole question of, are consumers going more and more online, and will online take over as far as insurance distribution is concerned? My answer to that is yes and no. Yes, in the sense that online will take over not just distribution, but also, whether it's claims or servicing. I think digital is here to stay, and digital will take over paper and other mechanisms, not just of selling, but of servicing as well. But does that mean the so-called traditional channels become irrelevant? My hypothesis is firmly no. In the last 11-12 months, the so-called traditional channels, whether they are agency, whether they are bank assurance, I think all channels have now gone digital. So the question is not whether online takes over or not, but whether all channels, embrace digital, embrace online, and become online and offer consumer choice. And I think my firm hypothesis and answer is that yes, digital is here to stay, but digital is here to stay, in my opinion, in a very different way. That all distribution channels, all mechanisms to serve customers embrace digital. And we have seen that happen as an industry in the last 12 months. We have seen that happen within Max Bupa. So whether it is prospecting for new customers or whether it is serving customers, I think online or digital ways of doing things is a secular trend, and that trend is here to stay. I think the real question to ask and answer around online or digital is how much of it is assisted versus how much of it is unassisted. And I think the answer is, as far as health insurance is concerned, for a number of reasons, I believe that they will continue to see requirements of assistance to a very large level. And I think Sanjeev touched upon some of these points. For reasons of complexity, I think there is much more complexity that is perhaps needed in the industry. The introduction of standard products, the introduction of standardization in general by the IRDA, and Mr. Mathur is here, I think is an important step to reducing complexity. But having said that, I think one must acknowledge that there is complexity in the industry, which means that there will continue to be requirement for assistance. Second, complexity also introduces friction, and specifically when you look at claims, which is the moment of truth as far as health insurance is concerned. The reality is that in the interaction between hospitals and insurance companies, there is enormous friction. And that friction means that, the policyholder still requires assistance, right? They are not able to do everything themselves. They do require the help of an advisor. They do require the help of a insurance company, contact center agent, or servicing capabilities, which assist them in navigating this complexity. So I think this is the second reason why health insurance specifically will continue to require assistance. There is a very, very interesting initiative that the industry has taken to build out a health claims platform. I think ultimately this can lower, a requirement for assistance. That this can eliminate friction, and I think this is the way to go. And lastly, again, while awareness has certainly gone up in health insurance, but if you move out of urban centers, and if you define awareness as something a little deeper in terms of willingness to pay premium to protect risk, I think that awareness sort of tapers off as we move beyond, metros and urban locations, and as we move down income segments. So I think this is the other thing that the industry and the regulator need to work on. We need some more good press. We need our equivalent of the Mutual Fund Sahiye campaign. I think the Egg Owners Association did an outstanding job. So I think as an industry, to spread awareness in a deep way, there's much that we can do so that this product, which is so essential, especially in these times, becomes available to more and more Indians as we move forward. One other topic, Ranjita, I quickly wanted to touch upon, which is, the topic of both health, has healthcare gone digital and are younger people buying? I think the answer to healthcare going digital, and again, I will refer to the experience, what Bupa witnesses in many of their countries, whether it's Spain, UK, or Australia. Clearly, even after COVID or in a post-COVID world, and some of those countries, got out of wave 2 a lot earlier than India has, the adoption of digital medicine, the willingness to consult digitally, the willingness to use remote diagnostics, I think a lot of those habits have continued, and our belief, or my belief, is that we will see similar trends in the Indian market as well. Specifically, on COVID itself, specifically around COVID claims, speaking as an insurance company, I think there's one or two big differences between what we witnessed in wave 1 and wave 2. In wave 1, non-COVID claims came down very, very sharply, whereas in wave 2, we saw non-COVID come down, but not as sharply. So, they continued to persist at, maybe 80% of pre-COVID levels. And that, I think, has fairly significant financial implications for health insurance companies. And lastly, we have also seen that, younger and younger people are getting into health insurance, which is a good thing. What COVID has done is not only has it increased awareness, but more importantly, in marketing parlance, it has lent urgency to awareness. But the unfortunate part is the moment, the COVID wave sort of falls down, we find that the urgency sort of comes down. So if you look at something like Google category search trends, you find that as COVID goes up, there's a fairly sharp jump in search and in purchase. But as the wave starts to wane, we find that people sort of go back to, older behaviors in terms of reversion to the mean. Hopefully, we will continue to see heightened awareness, not just in the 35, 40 plus, but also amongst youngsters, because the last wave impacted youngsters quite badly, as we all know. So hopefully, we will start to see more and more younger people coming into health insurance. So those are some of the thoughts that I wanted to share. Ranjita, thank you for the opportunity once more.
Thank you so much, Krishnan sir. Actually, you have touched upon some of the very important points that we were thinking of like discussing today. And I do have a few questions which I'll keep for the end. I hope you're there till the end of this webinar. So I'll move on to Mr. Ravi Vishwanath, President, Accident and Health, HDFC Ergo General Insurance. So we would like to hear from you, sir. Before that, let me take everyone through your profile. Ravi sir is the president, accident and health business at HDFC Ergo General Insurance. In this role, he is responsible for all the aspects of leading the health insurance, personal accident, and travel businesses of the company. Sir has worked over 23 years of global experience and in insurance, and has worked in multiple markets in the Middle East and Asia in life and health insurance. Prior to joining HDFC, he was the executive director and CEO at Reliance Health Insurance. In earlier roles, he served as deputy CEO and CDO at Tata AIA Life Insurance, and as a chief marketing officer at Apollo Munich Health Insurance. So, sir, over to you now, and we would like to hear your point of view for this session today.
Thank you, Ranjita. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope everybody is well and safe. It's great to be here. Thank you to the ASSOCHAM Eastern Region for the invitation. Damani ji, Navneet ji, thank you very much for inviting me here. Hello to my fellow panelists, Tajinder ji, Sanjeev, Krishnan, and to all those in the audience. I want to spend a few minutes talking about two things. One is I just want to spend a few minutes talking about, from my perspective, the impacts and critical issues around COVID that I think will have short-term and longer-term impact. And the second thing I want to just talk about a little bit, picking up on what Sanjeev spoke about and what Krishnan spoke about, is how do we bridge the gap of demand and supply across demographics in the health insurance industry. So on the first things, right? So clearly, as everybody's talked about so far, because of COVID, there has been greater awareness of the need for health insurance. And I think that is absolutely right. But I'm completely in agreement with Krishnan on this, that the question is it sustainable? Or, as people stop worrying about COVID, will we see a reduction, right? So Google search terms, even sales numbers from last year, you see a peak and then it just goes back to the way things were. This is something that I think as an industry, we need to continue educating people. Damani spoke about, how he's educating his customers. And I think as an industry, we have to really go out and educate customers about the need for health insurance and how it, both protects you as well as gives you access to the best possible care. The other thing that I think has been a positive impact, assuming that the greater awareness of health insurance will continue to translate into more people engaging and purchasing. The other thing, of course, the other part of the puzzle is access to quality healthcare. One of the things that we have clearly seen during COVID is that as a country, there is a real need to create a much more robust health infrastructure, especially outside the major metros. And I believe that one of the positive impacts that will come out of this is that there will be greater investment that will flow into the healthcare industry, into creating more infrastructure, to creating more hospitals, more primary, more secondary care clinics, and not just focused on metros and large cities, but across the country. And I think that this will be something that will help. I also think that there will be a lot of investments that will happen in health education. We all saw, for example, how important the frontline workers were, how important it was to have nurses, and the shortage of nurses that we have in the country. And I think that one of the things that I hope will come out of this is that as a country, we will invest a lot more, both publicly and privately, into healthcare, health infrastructure, health education, as well as educating people on the need to protect themselves financially with health insurance. The third thing, that I see happening, and Sanjeev spoke about this, is necessarily being the mother of all invention, is just insurance companies looking at processes and looking to see how can we digitalize processes, how can we simplify processes? How can we make sure that we're paying claims faster? How can we make sure that we are doing pre-authorizations faster? How can we make sure that we are doing discharge faster, right? And I think as an industry, we made a lot of progress on that. The latest number, I believe, is 88% of pre-authorizations for COVID claims happen within 1 hour at an industry level. And I think that that's great that the industry has come to that level. The 88 needs to become, 100%. But I think people are moving there, and the lessons that we learn from this will carry us forward post-COVID era as well. So these are some of the positive things, but there are some areas that are sort of very critical that I think will require all of us, whether we are, in the industry, whether the regulator, hello Mathurji, and whether it is a hospital fraternity, healthcare fraternity, for us all to kind of come together and work on, right? One of the really sad things that we saw is that just we have a system that was supposed to do something, and then COVID came, and just the pressure on the system exposed a lot of weak areas in the entire link. In some areas, there were breakages in the link because processes and systems that were never designed to take this kind of load were suddenly pushed into service and told to perform really, really quickly. And of course, all these processes are being managed by human beings in many cases, as opposed to computers. And those human beings themselves are also impacted by COVID. So a very high kind of pressure on the system. And when you put so much pressure on a system that is not designed to take that pressure, you see that you see where the weak areas are, you see where the linkages are, where the breakages are. Now, in this scenario, I think that insurance companies have done really well. One is, of course, the financial impact of COVID claims, but just I think it was really approached as a social cause. There have been so many cases that we have seen, for example, where it's not just about there is maybe a regulatory requirement or a legal requirement to complete a claim fast, but real human examples, right, where a patient has to be discharged because the bed has to be vacated because there is an ambulance in the parking lot with a patient who is sick, who, if he does not get into the hospital right now, is going to die. So it's about those kind of hundreds and thousands of human stories that all of us in the insurance industry have gone through, where we've tried really hard to serve people. And I think from that we have learned a lot. But the key thing that I think we have to do, and the key reason why there was so much pressure on the system, how do we build a better system for the future? We need to integrate the value chain a lot better. We need to integrate the way a hospital is connected to a customer, the way a customer is connected to an insurance company, the way the insurance company is connected to the hospital, the way the data flows between all these three entities in a way that is seamless, that is transparent, that is believable, that is accurate, and that is instantaneous. Because only by doing that and by really strengthening that entire chain will we be ready to not only take care of the next time something like this happens, but also to really make sure that customers have a fantastic experience, and more customers therefore come into the insurance industry. So I think that's something that is very important. The other things I want to speak about is, in terms of what are some of the critical issues that at least I see. And something that's really been on top of our mind is preparing for the third wave. It is, who knows, but it is likely that there will be a third wave. And of course, you hear so many things about what that third wave is going to be, who it's going to impact, and how it's not. I don't think anybody really predicted the ferocity of the second wave. So I don't know what the ferocity of the third wave is going to be, but I believe there will be a third wave at some point in the future. As an industry, as a society, I think we have to really spend a lot of time educating each other about how to behave. I'm in Bangalore right now, and the local government opened up a little bit recently because they saw cases going down, and everybody just went out on the street, and now there is a curfew. These are things that hurt, that hurts people, it hurts the economy, it hurts the mental psyche of people. As a community and as a country, how do we behave in this post-COVID era? I think is going to be very important. The other thing that has really been on our minds is the long-term health of our colleagues and partners. We had several hundred employees who were impacted by COVID. We had several hundred, in fact, thousand advisors, for example, who were impacted by COVID. Unfortunately, we lost a lot of our colleagues during COVID. And the best way to prepare for the third wave is to get people vaccinated today. And so we are spending a lot of our time thinking about how do we do that, not just for our employees, our partners, but also for our customers. And how do we make sure that more and more people get vaccinated? Because at this point in time, it looks like that is the most important thing that you can do, to be ready for the third wave. So I think this is something that is also very important that we need to keep in mind. As an insurance company, the last and most kind of critical issue perhaps that we need to think about, Christian spoke about how much as an industry we've paid in COVID claims. Financial strength really comes to the fore at a time like this. To be able to absorb claims of this magnitude and be willing to, also pay all the non-COVID claims and continue and invest in all the things you have to invest in creating the simpler product, investing in the better technology, investing in the better experience is important. So financial strength, I think, becomes very important. Prudent risk selection, I think, becomes very important. Managing your portfolio as an insurance company, I think, becomes very important, and more so than perhaps it was before. The last thing I just want to kind of spend a few minutes talking about is about we've done all this. Let's say we've built the value chain, we've created the simple product, we have integrated technology, we're providing a great experience. How do you get people to buy health insurance? How do you, as Christian put it, how do you get people to move from not willing to pay premium for protection to willing to pay premium for protection? I think it comes down to a few things. Today, most people who buy insurance, with some exceptions, but largely 35 to 45-year-olds, the metro and tier one. And then as you go out of that, it really tends to taper down. Also, what are we providing coverage for largely as an industry is we're providing indemnity health insurance, so which covers hospitalization. You go to hospital, and we will pay your bill. Now, that's not what most people spend their money for healthcare on. Of course, many people will have hospitalization, but everybody has got healthcare expenses. Most people do not have hospitalization as part of that healthcare expenses. So in my view, as an insurance industry, to become more relevant to the insureds and keeping greater focus on keeping them healthy and being their partners in good health is going to become more and more important. As an industry, I think that we have to expand vertically and horizontally. By that, I mean vertically across age bands. So products that are not just for the 35 to 45-year-old person who's now aware of his healthcare needs or has got the money to pay for it, but somebody who's younger, beginning their first job, and somebody who's much older, who perhaps during their lifetime, did not have the opportunity to really buy health insurance. Across the entire spectrum, we have to, as an industry, come out with the right propositions that are sustainable and that allow an insurance company to make the returns that they must make in order to exist in business, but sustainable products across age groups. Also, we have to expand horizontally. Today, we cover only hospitalization largely. How do we cover other things? How do we look at primary care? How do we look at outpatient treatment? How do we look at dental? How do we look at vision? How do we look at all the things that people spend money on for healthcare? The example that I give people is that it's like the health insurance industry is like the motor insurance industry. If the motor insurance industry only covered tires, the rest of the car is not covered. Nobody would buy motor insurance. How do you cover the entire car? The equivalent here is how do you cover all the expenses that people have on their healthcare? And I think when we do that, while keeping things simple, while investing in technology to make the process as smooth and simple and understandable and believable and trustworthy for the customer, and back it up with good service and a network where data flows seamlessly, is how we will be able to really increase the penetration of health insurance in India. But overall, I think the future is really bright. I believe there will be investments in healthcare infrastructure. There will be investments in that kind of technology. There's already stuff that has started, as Krishnan alluded to. And I believe that the health insurance industry will work hand in hand with the healthcare fraternity, with the regulator, with insurance customers to ensure that people will have access to the best possible healthcare, as well as make sure that their financial risks of access to healthcare is protected. Thank you. Those were my thoughts. Thanks, Ranjita.
Thank you so much, sir. That was like very valid, and thank you for taking us through all the important points that was there in our mind. So thanks for your insights, and I hope we'll have you till the end of this session so that we can have some questions answered. Here I would like I would request Mr. Udayan Lahiri, sir, if we can permit us to have Madam Tajinder Mukherjee to speak, as she has to like leave early. So, sir, if I just take your permission.
Sure, madam. By all means.
Madam.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So, Tajinder ma'am, Mrs. Tajinder Mukherjee, Chairman, Manager Director, National Insurance Company Limited. We are honored to have you with us today, and we would request you to please just speak on this issue today. So before that, I would also like to take everyone through Madam's profile. Madam took over as Chairman cum Managing Director of National Insurance Company Limited on 14th of September 2018. Srimati Mukherjee has over 35 years of experience in general insurance industry. She holds a bachelor degree in commerce from the University of Delhi and is also a fellow in insurance from the Insurance Institute of India. She joined the United India Insurance Company as a direct recruit officer in the year 1983. In United India, she worked in various capacities in direct operations at Delhi, Kolkata, and Mumbai before joining New India Assurance Company in 2012 as DGM. During her tenure in New India Assurance as DGM and GM, she held various portfolios including health, liability, reassurance, and property. She has actively contributed to key industry initiatives like PPN network, Indian nuclear pool formation, and review of insurance regulation. Madam has over 35 years of experience, as I said earlier. She has got this rich experience would definitely help us to find some few answers to our questions for this pandemic situation at the moment. Ma'am, over to you now.
Because there's an urgent BC I have to attend just after this meeting at 4 o'clock. It was scheduled. So I'll just, I completely endorse the views which the earlier speakers have elaborated, Mr. Damani, Mr. Sanjeev, Krishnanji, and Ravi in a very detailed manner. Definitely the pandemic, the disruption which it has caused in our lives, it has touched the lives of almost every person in the world, either directly or indirectly. One is the loss of earning, loss of revenue, the stress of economy, the financial part, but clearly the focus has been on the healthcare, which has come into limelight because of the pandemic. Now, when we are talking of the healthcare, especially when we see in India, we see that it has brought into focus I would say, the absence of quality infrastructure in various places, and in addition, the lack of financial solutions available to the large population for dealing with the costs which come with such treatments. Now, this is one aspect which the insurance industry has been talking for a long time. It is called the missing middle concept. The Indian health insurance, the penetration is so low. We find that only the large part of the population which is covered under health insurance is under a very basic government-sponsored scheme, and the voluntary purchase of health insurance is a very dismal 3% of the population buys health insurance. So that is where the gap lies. Mr. Damani said we should come out with vanilla products or we should have some new product innovations. But I personally feel that no amount of innovation on this side will be effective unless more and more people become the part of or subscribe to the pool of the premiums. If we have only a lopsided population, aging population covered under the health insurance schemes, it will never be, I would say, it will never give optimal value to the stakeholders. The premiums will always be high and inaffordable to the people who actually need the insurance. So if we want to bring quality, affordable insurance product to the entire population, more and more people need to come under the aegis of the health insurance. So from the pandemic, I have just 3 takeaways, which I will just elaborate briefly since I am also due for another meeting. So 3 basic takeaways from this pandemic. One is, yes, more and more people need to come under the health insurance solutions, because that will bring down the cost of premiums for all, and that will also drive investment in infrastructure, like what Ravi has explained in his deliberations, that as there is if there is an affordability to take treatment, definitely the investment will go to the tier 2, tier 3, and even smaller places. Quality infrastructure would be built so that people can take treatment as and when required. So this is the first takeaway, that more and more people need to come under the health insurance umbrella. The second is what we found from the outcomes of the COVID treatment. We find that most of the serious cases were those which were of comorbidities. So that clearly throws another concept of well-being. The people, if you see by the sale of the vitamins and minerals and the immunity boosters which has happened in India post-COVID, the concern for well-being, the health, overall health, and not just the treatment which the health insurance drives. No? So we are talking of the overall holistic well-being of a person. So the insurance industry, health insurance industry, has to interweave this well-being in its product, in its solution which is given to the public. So going forward, the change which we would like to see, or which we will probably see in the health insurance, is just not the traditional inpatient cover that we are providing, but right from, why not, if a child is born, right from vaccination stage to the entire age, I would say the journey of the child to adulthood and old age. So whatever treatment it needs, whether in terms of prevention, in terms of well-being, in terms of the treatment cost which would come later. So the entire this thing should come under the ecosystem of insurance, not just the final inpatient health treatment that we provide at this stage. So in future, if let us say my personal vision has always been that why not the entire population be covered under all types of treatments? Why only inpatient treatment? Why not OPD? Why not other preventive things? Why not well-being, like incentives for doing some any kind of maintaining your health in a particular way? So all these have to be interwoven in the health product which would come in the future. It's not too far away. We would see such products coming maybe another 2, 3, 5 years. This kind of innovations can happen. The third takeaway from the pandemic, which also the health insurance industry can make use of, is we saw a complete change in the way the virtual care has come into place. Now we talk of you just call a doctor, he gives you the medicine on phone, they track your journey to full treatment by way of just telephonic or videography or whatever you may call it. So this whole concept of virtual care if we interweave it with a completely cashless solution, so we have a system. It's basically entirely technology based platform, which again Ravi also has contemplated in his speech. So we have a system where the consultation, the diagnostics, the pharmacy, the follow-up the consultation also, and inpatient treatment if required at the end of it. The entire thing can be on a virtual mode, can be on a completely cashless solution, technology-based, and this will throw up a lot of data later. It will help in, I'll say, because you can monitor the outcomes, you can monitor you can have standard protocols. A lot of standardization can happen on protocols, on cost of treatments, on settlement of claims, on fairness and adjudication of claims, and the patient, the customer, doesn't pay a single paisa from his pocket. The entire thing is cashless, it is technology driven, and it is giving a gold mine of data for use for any of the purposes, for any of the stakeholders. They can have use of that data for future benefits. Of course, a lot of regulatory oversight is required, whether it is from the hospital regulation, or whether it is the data privacy regulations, or whether the insurance regulatory oversight on the fairness and adjudication of claims. So, under the entire regulatory oversight, this kind of system should be in place. And I don't think that this is something very far-fetched. Technology, artificial intelligence, everything is in place to bring this kind of dynamism in health insurance. My personal vision is that, like I shared earlier, we should have each and every citizen of the country covered under a health insurance, and considering the entire holistic approach, not just treatment. It has to be preventive. It has to be any kind of, but of course, if it is monitored in the cashless and on a technology platform, the fraud element is reduced to a large extent. But again, the regulatory oversight, or there will be other mechanisms which can alert or throw the fraud issues. Those are always there in any kind of setup, but effort has to be made, and I'm sure that we will see such dynamic changes coming up in the health insurance in future, and that is the way it should be. The only way in which all stakeholders can, I would say, a lot of improvement. We might say we have come up 20% increase every year. The health insurance is growing 13%, 15%, 70%. Doesn't have any meaning until at least 50% of the population buys a voluntary insurance, and which is nowhere in sight in this kind of scenario. So digital will help, technology will help, and COVID has created a lot of awareness about health insurance. So we need to tap, and I think a push from the government on either tax swaps or making some kind of basic insurance mandatory. We have been talking about it a lot, but I hope it happens. And I'm sure that these kind of very, very dynamic changes will be seen in the health insurance sector in future. So I'll excuse myself from the session. Thank you, Ranjita. Thank you, Parminder. Thank you, ASSOCHAM. I think the deliberations, I wish the deliberations all success till the end of the program. Thank you, all of you. Yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your valuable insights. We would really miss you for the rest of the webinar, but definitely we'll send you if there are any questions for the same. Thank you so much, ma'am. I would now request Mr. R. Udayan Lahiri, Co-Chairman, ASSOCHAM Health Sector Sub-Council East and Managing Director, Medica Super Specialty Hospital. Before we just want Sir to speak, I would like to take you through his profile. Mr. Udayan Lahiri graduated from St. Stephen's College, Delhi, postgraduate from IIHMR, Jaipur in Hospital and Health Management, with a brief stint at the School of Public Health, University of North Carolina. Worked as an intern at the University Hospital there before returning and joining KLES Hospital. Belgaum as the resident administrator. Joined Asia Heart Foundation to build one of the largest heart hospital of the country at Kolkata, called Rabindranath Tagore Institute of Cardiac Sciences. Next came the American Church Trauma Center, then Rotary Narayana, then Shankara Nethralaya in collaboration with the Shankara Nethralaya. In 2006, left the Asia Heart Foundation group to jointly promote medical super specialty hospital. So till now, we have been hearing from the insurance providers. We are eager to hear from Mr. Lahiri of the other side, that is the hospital management. So, sir, over to you. We would like to know more from you.
Thank you, madam, and good evening, everyone. It's a rare opportunity for a healthcare provider to have the ear of all the top bosses of insurance companies, and I'm very happy to be here and hearing from everyone. I think whatever I had in mind, Mr. Ravi Vishwanath kind of primarily took out most of my points, which I thought I would speak on today. However, I'll still take the opportunity and talk to you about more so about how COVID has impacted healthcare, and obviously when it impacts healthcare, it will impact all other um, bodies which are like a health insurance company. So some very, very basic data points which I just wanted to touch upon was, I think the problem that we saw and witnessed and experienced last 2 years, and the sheer magnitude of the gap in healthcare infrastructure was primarily because of decades of I would say not negligence, but ignoring the crying need of the country for developing healthcare infrastructure. The money that we've been spending on healthcare overall has been dismissively very, very low over the years. And I think COVID just highlighted or cleared out that gap which exists in our healthcare setups. If I just give one data point, the total expenditure in healthcare per capita in India is $63, compared to what's it's in US is $9,536. So I think this is one deficiency which has got us in this kind of a place wherein we are now all sitting up and looking as to what's gone wrong, what went wrong. Though I would admit that most of the Western countries also went through similar issues of not having enough ICU beds. But in India, we had a massive, massive gap. To give you a very, very small example, we are a 350 odd beds facility in Kolkata, out of which we almost transformed 200 into ICU beds during this COVID time. And we still had people waiting in ambulances right up to the EM bypass. Our hospital is around 500 meters from the EM bypass. And we had patients in ambulances waiting to get into the hospital. So it was sheer unimaginable magnitude of how things were. So the data says we have 1 bed for 1,000 people in our country. What changed? Certain things changed after COVID. Why they changed? So we face enormous pressure on our manpower, not only in terms of numbers, but also in terms of skills. That was one point. Second was materials, supply chain. Suddenly everything disappeared, and everything that we could buy for 2 rupees, 5 rupees suddenly became overnight 150 rupees for, say, a mask. Infrastructure, we went on revamping internally and kept on increasing beds, but it was never enough. First 3 months of year 2020, first 3 months of year 2020, that was March, April, May, the hospital was running with 40 patients instead of 350 patients that we normally run it. So finances were in doldrums. We had to cut salaries of our people, which we've never done in so many years. up to 40% cuts were there in salaries for people. So it's not that private healthcare just made money. Yes, we adapted, we innovated in a very, very short time to turn around and learn the nuances around COVID. When COVID struck us, there were numerous advisories which we got from the government, which we would get in the morning, and those would change by evening. So there was always, everyone was trying to learn at that point of time. Other things which were in great trouble were testing for COVID. We did not know who were coming in, who were positive and who were not. Our major challenge was to keep our manpower safe, keep the non-COVID patients safe inside the hospital. So when we talk about infrastructure in a healthcare setup, it's not just especially when it's an infectious disease like COVID, it's not about beds. It's also about the safety of the environment in which you are keeping the patient. So we had to totally overall change the air conditioning system in the hospital. Huge financial cost, but it had to be done. It was done. We had to keep our non-COVID patients separate from the COVID patients. The reason I'm taking this opportunity to talk to you all is you will understand where the cost in healthcare comes from. It just doesn't come from the consumables, medicines, or just the manpower costs. So these are all certain things which we had to do. We had to we bought almost like 55 ventilators. We have been identified as the largest ECMO program in entire Asia today. So we bought almost like 20 ECMO machines and we saved lives. That's what mattered. And I think that we did well. But there were people who made wrong bills, and I'm sure you must have seen them, but we can't, paint everyone with the same brush. There were other issues like PPE availability to begin with. Then there were supply medicine like remdesivir, which was very, very important at that time, was not available. So we went through all this during last 1.5 years. I think the challenge today, as Mr. Ravi just said, Vishwanath said, is how do we get people vaccinated? There's no other way that we think as healthcare providers that we can go back to some semblance of normalcy unless everyone is vaccinated with both the doses. And that's a big challenge. One is to get it manufactured, one is get it distributed equitably across the country, and then the vaccination. So I think government has come up with plans in West Bengal where they're asking corporates that unless their manpower is vaccinated, they will not allow them to go and work. So I think these kind of things, mandated things, have to come in because people do not understand still. Some people still fear vaccines, that vaccines might give them more harm than do them good. Finally, hospitals and health insurance companies can't stay in silo. We have to work together. There are certain things which, as a healthcare provider, that we could seek for changes in healthcare companies, health insurance companies, is the process, the way a pre-authorization is taken. It takes almost like 50 pages have to be, it differs from companies to companies. Almost 40 to 50 pages need to be uploaded into the system to get a pre-authorization done. I understand the nuances of the data points that are required by healthcare companies, but at least we could standardize those. We have so many healthcare insurance companies. If those all could be, then the mistakes at our end would definitely come down. Training would be much easier. You would not find mistakes in our work. Similarly, if we could have a kind of a standardization in the cost that the patients or we charge to insurance companies, not just based on one cost for all, but based on what a hospital gives, what level of care a particular hospital gives vis-a-vis a smaller or a rural hospital. So those could be worked out, I think, and I think that's definitely has to be done for the future, because COVID definitely has shown us that we have a lot of gaps and those need to be taken care of. I also had one suggestion. I have spent some time working for Kaiser Permanente in US, And what they did was they took in healthcare in their hands. So maybe it might be a good idea for healthcare insurance companies to invest into hospitals. You will get an access to all the data that hospitals, and this thing about hospitals charging more or less or doing overbilling will all disappear. Cost can only come down by 2-3 ways. One is government regulations with regards to custom duties. We bought 2 CT scan machines in the last 1.5 years, primarily because we did not want the non-COVID patients and the COVID patients to use the same CT scan for scanning. And we paid every time 33% as custom duty. While everyone tells us to bring down our costs, there's nothing which is done. In fact, there was a surcharge which was now this time put on of 5% on custom duty. So these things are something which needs to be done. We understand make in India, but we also need to understand that MRI machines, cath labs, CT scans still of that level do not get manufactured in our country. Why can't insurance companies, it's just a wish, invest into healthcare, not just in big tertiary hospitals, but also into going back and look at preventive healthcare. I think if we can diagnose first, if we can diagnose early, the cost of healthcare is definitely going to come down. So with that, I would like to end my talk and thank you all very much for patiently listening to me. And it was wonderful listening to all of you today. And we are here in this together, I feel. And hospitals and insurance, health, especially health insurance companies, they need to work hand in hand if we have to get through this together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. It was great listening to you, actually. So it's like the common people's view and how we people are actually seeing it all round. So I would now request Mr. Suresh Mathur, Executive Director, Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority of India. So, sir, now we would like to hear from you about all the important regulations and all the initiatives or innovations that you have on the sector. So before that, I'll just take a short time to read out your profile to all our delegates and the important speakers here. Mr. Suresh Mathur has rich experience both in regulatory mechanism and also working knowledge of insurance companies. Mr. Mathur, presently working in the Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority, IRDA, India, has a very rich experience in insurance regulatory framework. He has been with the IRDA right from his inception and worked at various levels and presently posted as the head of department of the non-life insurance department in the capacity of Senior Joint Director. Before joining the authority, Mr. Mathur worked with the largest public sector non-life insurance company with the New India Assurance Company Limited, which has presence in many countries in the world. He has the operational experience of around 9 years and his assignment includes underwriting and claims management in addition to market development issues. He has been involved in the framing of IRDA Act 1999, Amendment of Insurance Act 1938 and various regulations made there under since the inception of IRDA from 1996. Which forms the basis for the formation of the IRDA, which opened up the insurance sector to private players in India. His experience in IRDA includes licensing of insurance companies, supervision of insurance companies, licensing of insurance intermediaries, such as insurance brokers, corporate agents, and the third-party administrators, and the supervision. We would really like to hear from you, sir, now. Over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Many thanks for inviting me here in this with these distinguished speakers. So, distinguished fellow panelists, Mr. Doda, Mr. Damani, Mr. Sanjeev Mantri, Mr. Krishnan Ramachandran, Mr. Ravi Vishwanath, Madam Tejinder Mukherjee, and Mr. Udayan Lahiri. Good afternoon to you and all the delegates. So, as mentioned by you, I will first list out the changes which have been brought out by the regulator. So, first thing is that we had introduced the standard health insurance product, as has already been mentioned by one of the speakers, which is the Arogya Sanjeevani. So, in January 2020, we had directed all the general and specialized health insurers to start selling this product from 1st April 2020. So if we look at the COVID specific changes since the onset of COVID-19 pandemic in India, we have been consistently putting extra efforts to handle crisis by a slew of measures in order to ensure convenience to the customers. So first thing was we had directed insurers to cover hospitalization due to pandemic 19 under a regular health insurance policy and also provide cashless treatment. Then we had also mentioned that to maintain continuity of business operation through possible alternative modes, including the telephonic and digital contact. So this digital operations, as you know, are going to be the future of any service industry, and insurance is no exception to this. We had already also mentioned about coordinated efforts of all the stakeholders are going to be of great help, and bodies like ASSOCHAM can play a great role in building the coordinated efforts for developing a customer-friendly ecosystem. So this is one thing. Then we had also mentioned that considering the need for easing payment of health insurance premium during pandemic period, all the insurers were allowed to collect health insurance premium in installments. So this has played a major role in increasing affordability of health insurance industry. Then, as a partial solution to problem of affordability, we had to provide protection exclusively to COVID. The authority had also come up with short-term COVID-specific products like Corona Kavach and Corona Rakshak. And we had mandated that the Corona Kavach, all the general insurers and health insurers have to make available to the public. Corona Rakshak, we had asked all insurers and even life insurers, because it's a benefit-based product, to make available to insurers. Then during peak of COVID-19, we had also recognized the need for that the makeshift or temporary hospitals permitted by the government for settlement of health insurance claim, and it should be treated as hospitalization. So while the authority had directed all the insurers to settle such claims as specified norms, bodies like ASSOCHAM and many of the speakers have already spoken, can also focus on the need for building up the medical infrastructure, as Mr. Ravi Vishwanath also mentioned this. Then we had also allowed, we had also requested insurers to allow treatment covering through telemedicine under an health insurance policy in compliance with the telemedicine practice guidelines of March 2020. So the telemedicine, as you know, will be a boon for people, particularly in who are residing in tier 2 and tier 3 cities, as they will not, they may not be required to travel to tier 1 cities for their doctor's consultation, and can rather discuss the condition with the doctor from the comfort of their homes. So this is going to be a harbinger of future preventive care. This is what we think. Then we had also standardized products of, we have also brought a lot of standardization in health insurance product, particularly the exclusions. So it was important for health industry to adopt a uniform approach while incorporating exclusion in the health insurance, so that we have prescribed. So in we had asked all the insurers to revamp their health insurance policy in October 2020, from which are from with effect from 1st October 2020 and incorporate all the guidelines regarding standardization of exclusions. We have also introduced the concept of moratorium period. Under this concept, there is no looking back for insurers after completion of 8 continuous years under the policy. This period of 8 years is called as a moratorium period. After the expiry of moratorium period, no health insurance policy shall be contestable, except for proven fraud or permanent exclusions. So these revisions will make the coverage more comprehensive and will be more efficient for the policyholders. So another concept is that IRDA has also created a concept of regulatory sandbox approach whose objective is to use innovative ideas to foster growth and increase the pace of most innovative companies in a way that provides flexibility in dealing with the regulatory requirements and at the same time focusing on policyholder protection. So this basically regulatory sandbox provides a safe and conducive environment for insurers to experiment with innovative approaches, including fintech solutions, wherein the consequences of failure, if any, can be contained. Another thing which we have come out during this is the standard vector-borne diseases health policy also. So in order to address the needs for ensuring public for getting health insurance coverage to specified vector-borne diseases, the authority encouraged all general insurers and health insurance to offer standard vector-borne health policy named Mashak Rakshak. Another thing which we had come up during this time is the standard personal accident insurance product. So the authority mandated all general and health insurers to offer a standard personal accident product named Saral Suraksha Bima. So slew of health insurance standard products which we have come up with the objective of having common coverage and policy wordings across the industry. So a standard product for health insurance is also in the pipeline. So all these developments in the health insurance will lead to a wave of change in the industry, which is growing, and also several demographic factors such as growing middle class. It will address all these issues such as growing middle class, young insurable population. Growing awareness for the need of adequate protection will support the further growth of health insurance with the new modifications in place. The health insurance penetration is expected to grow and expand in India. So this is what from my side. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. This was really great. It is really great to hear that so many innovative packages are available at the moment. And I hope this would actually reach out to more people and they would know about it, the details and everything. So if I ask you a question, sir, regarding all the new products that you have, things that you have, innovative products that you have developed. So is there any communication systems developed so that people would know more about it, and there is any customer service, or how do people get to know more about it or enroll in it?
No, these products we have asked insurers to make it available on their websites.
Okay, sir.
And also we are through the press releases and all that, we have mentioned about these standard products. And these are common coverages across all insurers and available, and all insurers will have to make this available.
Okay, great, sir. So great to hear from you, sir, and it was our privilege to hear all the things from you. And we would like your guidance in future also, how ASSOCHAM can act as a part with IRDAI.
Sure.
Take forward these initiatives, sir. Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you so much. Thank you. sir. I would really like to say, like, it was great to hear from all of you today. And there are a few questions that has come up. So we would like the people, the panelists over here to take up the questions if possible. Krishnan sir, you said you have a meeting that that is there at 4:30. So the question is like, let us like have the question one from you. So, sir, somebody is asking like selecting the right insurance policy during the COVID times. So, how do you think like how our customers would understand which one to take or how to go forward with the right one at the moment?
Speaking on behalf of the insurance industry, I'd say all policies will be good, but if but you have to choose. So some of the factors that will help you make that decision, one of course is the features. I think this is most important to look at in terms of what kind of coverage and what kind of sum insured. And I would say that minimum 5 lakh sum insured is required in these times. So make sure that you are adequately protected. That is first and foremost, and minimum 5 lakhs. And what other features do products cover? So, for example, are there sublimits? Is there coverage for modern treatments? Is it a good spread of hospitals where cashless facility is available? I think that is important, especially given claim sizes during COVID. The other is, and you can look up this data on the IRDA website, in terms of claim settlement ratios, right? So, how good is the settlement ratio of the company? I think that's an important consideration. Also look up what is the service capability and track record of the company. There are some independent third-party reviews that are done in some of the financial press, including Mint, Economic Times, etc., that publish service capability of companies. So do take a look at that as well. So I think these are some, and of course, last but not the least, in terms of premiums, what kind of affordability threshold do you have? There's always a trade-off between what features the product has and what kind of premium will it cost to the policyholder. And do your research. I think that this is important. Do talk to friends and family and advisors, but also do some independent research of your own before you make a decision. I think that's important. So taking all of this together, I'd say this should be a good decision-making process in terms of choosing the right company and the right product when you're buying health insurance.
Thank you so much, sir. And it was great to have you on board with us. Thank you. We would like to have you again with us at our any other program on the same.
Thank you. Pleasure to be there. And sorry I had to leave early, but thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Panelists as well. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Ravi. Thank you.
So there is another question for Mr. Krishnan. Krishnan, sir. Sir, you have spoken about the embracing the digital media for the insurance. Like, this is a general question. Like, how do you see in future, like people getting into online medical claims, and how well we are equipped with this online thing at the moment?
Anjita, I think Krishnan has left, so do you want me to take it or Sanjeev to take it?
Yeah, sure.
Sure. So, I mean, I guess the question is around digital and look, I mean, I think in the insurance products, going back to what Damaniji said before, right? I think insurance products, you've got 3 types. You've got no advice, limited advice, and high advice products. And there are different needs for all those types of products, right? No advice products are products where a customer can just come and just buy it, doesn't really need to think too much or learn too much about what is covered. And then medium advice and low advice. And I think that when you are in the towards the left side in terms of the no advice and near there, I think people will buy online digitally. But as you move forward more to the right, where there is some advice that is required, either to choose the right product or your earlier question to Christian about how do you choose a product, is an important role that an advisor plays to explain, what is the product you need to have, how much coverage should you have, what is covered, what is not covered, what are the choices, and what is right for you. And I think that's very valuable. I don't think that is going away. And I think that what will happen is digitalization of sales, but sales will still happen. A large part of sales will still be face to face because that advice is required. There will be a growing segment that will be digital, but that also depends on insurers creating no advice products that somebody can just buy on the click of a button without having to understand it too much. But there will be an entire suite of products, and I think face-to-face advice will continue to be the most common way of purchasing health insurance for the next 3 or 4, 5 years.
Great, sir. Yeah. So, since you're there, sir, I would also like to hear from you on you've also spoken about the customer, insurance provider, and the hospital. All three of them, they should be together, and then the products can be developed, or the innovative products can be brought into the market. So how do you see the hospital management and the insurance provider? What is the status at the moment? Since there's huge pressure at the moment, so how do you feel this connect is actually working? What are the improvement areas actually?
Look, I think that how is the connect working? So there are two parts here. You can look at this in two ways, right? And I think Udayan spoke about this as well. One is that you can think about an insurance company and a hospital as being natural enemies because the insurance company's job is to reduce the amount that they pay the hospital. The hospital's job is to get the maximum. That's one way to look at it. Another better way to look at it is that both the insurance company and the hospital have got the same customer, right? And our job jointly is to make sure that the customer gets better as soon as possible, gets the best possible treatment that he needs. Doesn't need to get any more treatment than that, doesn't need to get any less treatment than he needs, but gets the treatment he needs, and the insurance company is sort of charged a fair price for it. And then I think everybody is aligned. The problem today is that there isn't any mechanism to align the interests of the three parties. We don't have, health insurance and insurance generally is regulated by the IRDA. Hospitals are not regulated, right? It's a state subject and so on. It's not regulated. Some of the things that Udayan spoke about, I think, are very welcome in terms of can we have a joint package across across hospitals, and there is work being done around this, right? So there's the entire work that's being done by the National Digital Health Mission, etc. And I think, frankly, it is only a matter of time before all these things get aligned. But it also fundamentally starts with both hospitals and insurers approaching this with the customer in their mind, as opposed to, well, here we are enemies and let's kind of fight with each other to, till the last man kind of standing wins, right? But instead, if we think about the customer and making sure that the patient and the insured, in my case, gets the best possible care at a fair price. If we keep that as a focus, then hopefully it'll lead to better dialogue and better communication.
Yes.
But there's a long way to go, to be honest. And a lot of opportunities on both sides.
And Ranjita, to also add, frankly speaking, there's no question of rivalry, as Ravi is saying. Frankly speaking, we complement each other, right? I mean, the common factor is the customer. And there are several times when there is indeed, confusion or lack of understanding in terms of what each one of us is seeking, the customer suffers. And my own fundamental belief is, it's not that when we're in the business of providing these set of customers health insurance, I'm also a customer myself, right? Even the people who run hospitals also become customers themselves, right? They also procure health insurance. So there's a circle that is available on which we experience what we do. And we should not lose sight of the fact that in the end, the convergence will only happen. And frankly speaking, a lot of gaps that were there, were also put at speed in real time over last 15 to 16 months between hospitals, insurers, regulators, and all of those bodies. Real time guidelines came in, and today we had a regulator who came back and said that you need to close out the claim in 60 minutes on COVID. And the data goes back to them in real terms. So all of us were expected to prune up our processes. Now, how do you do this if you don't use technology in a physical mode? The file travels from one end to another end, then the approval happens, and it gets transmitted to the conventional upload system. It will never get done, right? So there is a lot which has been put at speed, but it's a key conduiting. We are the conduiting guy, and we pick up the customers well in advance. Before it reaches hospital. So there's a channelized mechanism which operates in a particular manner, and we need to work in sync. There is no other way.
Yes, sir. Rightly said, sir. Mr. Lahiri, you have anything like to add over here?
Yeah, I think I would agree with both Mr. Vishwanath and Mr. Mantri. It's really not like we fighting each other. It's more of a complementary approach. And just to put it in the right perspective, hospitals also get regulated, and especially in the state of West Bengal, we are very, very closely monitored. In fact, there was an advisory that we will not be able to revise our charges from 31st March 2020, which was last year, and we normally revise our charges on 1st of April. And so our revisions are pending from 2019 April. So there are regulations, and then there were other regulations like we'll have to charge patients on a discounted rates for COVID, like medicines to be charged at 10% discount and consumables at 20%, certain beds, RT-PCR tests, now the vaccination. So hospitals are always under the scanner, and yes, may not be a national body doing it, but yes, at state levels, we do get monitored and regulated all the time. And it has to be a win-win position for both the end provider like us, the insurance companies, as well as our common customer, who actually comes in his times of distress to us, and how we can make his treatment and his stay with us and his entire period as less stressful as possible is, I think, objective of both. Thank you.
So there is an open question for over here, like since COVID is a global pandemic, and each and every country is actually fighting this, and there have been many models which has been adopted in terms of medical insurance and how people can benefit out of it. So is there any model that India is working on, or is there any story, anything that we are following from other countries, any example that you want to put forward that we should actually follow the same or take it forward?
From a COVID insurance perspective?
Yeah.
At least as far as I know, I think we are quite unique in terms of not only covering COVID, but also having a COVID-specific policy that is kind of launched in the middle of the pandemic. I think that is quite unique, and it has certainly helped a lot of patients, a lot of people who had COVID, and I think that's unique. Most of the countries, I think, the government picks up the tab, but our approach has been different, and it's in that sense it's quite unique. I don't know that there is anybody else, to my knowledge, that's doing this.
So yeah, so in terms of best practices, I think there are a lot which can come at multiple levels. I mean, there's a defined protocol in most of the developed markets in terms of line of treatment, and I know if those kind of practices come in over here, it will help each one of us. It will help the customer, us as insurer, and even the hospital, because they know that when the patient comes in for a particular aspect, you will probably have that, and that this is the stream which will get auto approved in terms of claims. But if you deviate, there has to be a good reason and a process by which you seek approval as to why you're doing what you're doing. This can be one of the best practices which can put everything at speed in a significant way. But otherwise, in many ways, I agree absolutely with Ravi that our own challenges and the way the country is placed, the way we have in the hinterland, the medical facilities available, it's very difficult to draw a parallel. But the commonality which works everywhere in a big way probably is the use of digitization to make consistent services available to the masses, which otherwise are available only to the classes, and use of AI in terms of making sure that decisioning tools are done, everything is recorded. Then the digital mission which the government has got started can go a long way in terms of creating solutions which are which can be out of the box, but actually very consistently available to everybody, because it's a fundamental requirement in terms of taking care of an individual when there's a health crisis. And of course, the rest is prevention rather than cure, which also got spoken some time back.
Yes, sir. Very true, sir. Sir,
in terms of models, if you are saying, so in times of pandemic, many of the jurisdictions have created pandemic pools. Because what happens that the insurance is one subject that you collect from so many people and just give it to the persons who have claimed. But during pandemic, everyone is affected. So basically, during pandemic times, the payment of claims becomes very difficult for the insurers, and it is beyond the capacity of the insurers. And in the times to come, it may affect the solvency of the insurers also. So it is a bigger issue, and it is being discussed that to create a pandemic pool in the times to come.
yes, sir. Sir, there's a question for you, Suresh sir. This is from one of the delegates. She says that all companies have top-up and super top-up policies. Top-up is known to be redundant. Why is IRDA not mandated for it to be removed from the market? I don't know.
I don't know. I think Mr. Ravi Vishwanath or Mr. Mantri are better equipped to handle this issue. But there is no such move from our side as of now.
So I can only tell one thing, that it's redundant because you've not used it, and you should be happy. As I said, buying health insurance is more of a investment rather than an expense. But there are enough and more claims which do come on account of top-ups or super top-ups which are made available, and the pricing of that is minuscule because there's a base deductible which comes into play, which works extremely handy for the consumer and make things affordable. So if you have a group scheme available on which you are a part of it, you don't get the benefit of the as an individual. So you can buy a super top-up on top of that cover which is available from your employer, and most companies also give you a scheme when you can move to the base level scheme of the company once the employer-employee cover goes away. So there are ominous benefits, and it is a critical product which should be there available to the customer.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah. So I think we are, our time is almost over. So I would now like to have Mr. Damani with us for all the closing remarks. And thank you so much. It was actually great to hear from all of you. And we know that we'll get a way forward from it. Over to you, Damani, sir.
Thank you, everyone. And I've got a small question to our respected Honorable IRDA Executive Director, Mr. Suresh Mathur, that as on date, what we find data that around 2,95,70,000 people were affected with COVID. And the insurance company got the claim registered of around 11,01,000. And there is so much of panicky, hardly 3.7% people are insured. It's a very alarming data that a lot of people have ruined themselves financially. So what IRD is going to give more education to the people to get them insured is the responsibility of the IRDA, so that what Madam Tajendra Mukherjee told, masses should be insured to reduce the premium and average out. So we want that people don't have insurance. And when we go to sell insurance, they don't buy it. कोई बीमार होता है बोलता वे पड़ा मैं थोड़ी बीमार पड़ा हूँ. So the total is that people should treat it as a food expenses, then only it can be insured. So, and more challenging that out of the 11 lakh claim registered, a lot of claim has been rejected because of the non-disclosure of the pre-existing disease. So even the IRDA should give it, and all the companies should come out with an advertisement below health insurance. There should be full disclosure of the health previous existing disease. Otherwise, it may lead to rejection of the claim. In advertisement itself, in health policy about health insurance, the company should come out with the education also. Please disclose all about your pre-existing disease to protect your claim. So, but people are not aware. Even, sir, if somebody is taking sleeping pills, his policy cannot be issued. So these are all challenging things which we face. And moreover, it's the duty of the primary underwriter as the insurance agent, we should educate the client. But more should come from your IRDA side and from the insurance company side about the disclosure of the full health so that the claims are being settled in a nice way. And about this thing, the data is not that much. If all people have been insured, as on date, insurance company could not manage the settlement of the claim, and rather solvency ratio has come down very remarkably. So anyhow, but it is our duty to see that infrastructure is there. We can improve a lot, and there is no end to any improvement. So we will things will come in future, so that the mass people are insured, mass things are people are saved financially. So thank you very much for all this contribution and knowledge to the people. And more seminars will be organized, and more it is need of the hour. So thank you very much, sir. We're giving valuable time. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure being here.
Thank you all very much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ranjita. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.